Good evening and welcome to Top 200 Most Challenging CAT VRC Question, a series by LPT. VRC section usually वैसे भी challenging ही रहता है and we are doing most challenging means we are doing the questions which really require a lot of fine tuning in terms of understanding of passage as well as understanding of questions. Today we are going to focus more on कि question का nature किस तरह का है, though that has always been the focus or always been the endeavor, but आज specifically हम questions के nature के ऊपर अच्छे से बात करेंगे जिससे कि आपको पता चलेगा कि उनकी approach किस तरीके से होनी चाहिए, right? चलिए let's move to the passage. Okay, so this is the passage. Have a look at this slide. Please read this passage. Since it is a live session, so I'm giving you some time to read this passage carefully. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay, next slide. That's going to be the last one. All right, with this we'll move to the questions. Let's go back to the passage, read it carefully. Okay, when we teach engineering problems now is the keyword, right? We ask students to come to a single best solution defined by technical ideals like low cost, speed to build, and ability to scale. This way of teaching primes students to believe that their decision making is purely objective as it is grounded in math and science. This is known as technical social dualism. Whenever we talk about dualism, that means there are two distinct aspects of the same thing, but very distinct, separated. Dualism, there is a dualism. That means you can identify that this aspect is very different from the other aspect of maybe one thing only. So what are the two things? Technical and social, right? The idea that technical and social dimensions of engineering problems are readily separable and remain distinct throughout the problem definition and solution processes. So this is what the author is saying. It is technical social dualism, right? So usually this idea of dualism carries whenever we talk about dualism. So most often the author would either be in favor of it or against it. We don't know. So far the author has not shown any kind of inclination or any kind of opinion in this. Chale, let's have a look at the passage further. Why I am discussing these things? That while reading, you need to focus on that what kind of opinion author is trying to make, endorse or refute, right? Chaliye, non-technical parameters such as access to a technology, cultural relevancy or potential harms are deemed political and invalid in this way of learning. Now this is where you are able to see a little bit of opinion making. But those technical ideals are at their core social and political choices determined by a dominant culture focused on economic growth for the most privileged segments of society. Here is a contrast, but and now you can observe that it is talking about the most privileged segments of society, right? So it is focused on, it's a dominant culture which is focused on economic growth of a privileged class. So starting to create some opinion. By choosing to downplay, look at the words, the choice of words here, downplay public welfare as a critical parameter for engineering design, we risk, again look at the word choice, we risk creating a culture of disengagement from societal concerns among engineers that is antithetical to the ethical code of engineering. Look at the word used, antithetical. That means engineering as a religion, that means at the core of engineering, it is against the ethical core of engineering, right? So this is where you can see that the author is very much expressing his or her opinion. In my field of medical devices, the moment author uses my, that means this is the first person account or this is the first person opinion, right, of medical devices, ignoring social dimensions has real consequences, reactions. This is because they have been inadequately represented in clinical trials. So clinical trials में उनको inadequately present किया जाता है, right, because there is a social dimension और उसके real consequences हैं अगर आप उनको ignore करते हैं. Most FDA approved drugs are incorrectly dosed for people assigned female at birth, leading to unexpected adverse. Okay, now those who are assigned female at birth, उनको incorrect dosage दी जाती है और उससे अनएक्सपेक्टेड एडवर्स रिएक्शंस हो सकते हैं, राइट. दिस इज एन एग्जाम्पल गिवन हेयर. बियॉन्ड फिजिकल फेलिंग्स, सब्जेक्टिव बिलीव्स ट्रीटेड एज फैक्ट्स by those in decision making roles can encode social inequalities. For example, spirometers, routinely used devices that measure lung capacity, still have correction factor that automatically assume smaller lung capacity in black and Asian individuals. See, assumptions are made in a field of engineering or in a field of medicine where data must drive, but then assumptions are driving the whole thing. These racially based adjustments are derived from research done by eugenetics. Eugenesis. So eugenics, आप इसको पढ़िए एक बार. ये एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग टर्म है और इसमें ऐसा माना जाता है कि कुछ जीन्स या कुछ रेसेस आर सुपीरियर देन अदर्स. सो ये उनकी रिसर्च या उनके द्वारा किए गए जो भी ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं उन पर बेस्ड है. हु थॉट दीज रेशियल डिफरेंसेस वर बायोलॉजिकली डिटरमिन्ड एंड हु कंसिडर्ड नॉन वाइट पीपल एज इंफीरियर, राइट. यूजेनेटिक्स एक काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग टर्म है. वी नीड टू you need to have lot of understanding of this because ये term काफ़ी बार इस तरह के passages में use की जाती है. CAT में काफ़ी इसके references आते हैं. Okay, these machines ignore the influence of social and environmental factors on lung capacities. तो machine किस चीज़ को consider कर रही है? Like Asian black हैं तो उनके जो कल्चरल बैकग्राउंड है उसको कंसिडर कर रही है और इग्नोर कर रही हैं सोशल और एनवायरमेंटल फैक्टर्स को, राइट. Many technologies for systematically marginalized people have not been built because they were not deemed important, such as better early diagnostics and treatment of disease like endometriosis, a disease that afflicts 10% of people with uteruses. That means female, right? And we hardly question whether devices are built sustainably, which has led to a crisis of medical waste and healthcare, accounting for 10% of US greenhouse gas emission. तो US का जो greenhouse emission है उसका 10% is because of medical waste and healthcare में जो भी सामान यूज़ किया जा रहा है उसको प्रोड्यूस या उसको डिस्पोज करने में जाता है. सो हेयर वी कैन सी अ क्लियर क्रिटिसिज्म. सो अगर टोन का क्वेश्चन आएगा तो हमें आइडिया मिल रहा है यहाँ से, राइट. नहीं भी आएगा तो अगर हम टोन पकड़ पा रहे हैं तो बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस जो इन्फ्रेंस बेस्ड होंगे उनको भी हम अच्छे से कर पाएंगे, राइट. हैव अ लुक एट द लास्ट स्लाइड. Social justice must be made core to the way engineers are trained. See, must be made. Now the author is in suggestive or kind of strong opinion mode. Must be made core to the way engineers are trained. Some universities are working on this. Engineers taught this way will be prepared to think critically about what problems we choose to solve, how we do so responsibly, and how we build teams that challenge our ways of thinking. Now this is completely suggestive mode or rather stressing mode on some kind of solution. While reading, pay attention to these kind of things, observe these things very carefully. Individual engineering professors are also working to embed societal needs in their pedagogy. Darshan Karwat at the University of Arizona developed activist engineering to challenge engineers to acknowledge their full moral and social responsibility through practical self-reflection. Khalid Kadir at the University of California, Berkeley created the popular course Engineering, Environment and Society that teaches engineers how to engage in place-based knowledge an understanding of the people, context and history to design better technical approaches in collaboration with communities. Now this is what is giving us examples where what is being suggested is getting implemented at least on a trial base or individual base, if not mass but individual. When we design and build with equity and justice, equity means fairness, and justice in mind, we craft better solutions that respond to complexities of entrenched systematic problems. So the whole passage is about telling how engineering ignores social and cultural and historical aspects and purely focuses on this, and at times also is biased towards marginalized sectors and how things can be made better, right? Chaliye, before we move to the question, let me look at the comments. Okay, Prince Yadav is saying that please take more questions other than like PYQs. So PYQs give us a very good idea of the difficulty level which the exam is asking nowadays. When I say nowadays, in the previous years. So getting that fair idea is very much required for you to tune your training or to tune your practice to that particular level or method, right? That's why PYQs are the most important things. It is not that these questions will not appear again in examination, for sure, and I can also assure you one thing, जितने भी क्वेश्चंस आप प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं, द प्रोबेबिलिटी, चाहे कहीं से भी प्रैक्टिस करें आप, चाहे वो PYQ है, चाहे भी कहीं और से भी है, whatever you are practicing, the probability that the same question, when I say same, it means same question would appear in the examination is very low. So do not depend on question. Look at the way questions are treated, the way we are approaching them, the way we are eliminating the options. Learning that method is going to help us more, right? And getting standard questions from PYQ is one of the sure shot method where we can assure that something of very similar nature is going to appear in the examinations, right? Chali, let's move to the questions. In the passage, the author is making the claim that, so what is the claim author making? When we say the claim, it could be the conclusion, one, or the author is insisting on something. So out of the options, if you can try, I think you are there online, so can you give your input in on this question, Prince? I am waiting for a response. Okay, in this passage the author is making the claim that technical social dualism has emerged as a technique for engineering students. No, it is not a technique. There is a technical social dualism because the engineering students are not taught, they are not taught the social aspect of engineering. That's why it is not emerged as a technique. So A is ruled out, right? What about B? The objective of best solution in engineering has shifted the focus of pedagogy from humanism and social obligation to technological perfection. It is not talking about technological perfection. And the objective of best solution, so best solutions according to the author are those which should include the social obligation also. So B is not the correct option. Author is not making that claim. What about C? Engineering students today are trained to be non-subjective in their reasoning. No, it's not being non-subjective. That means it is not that they are taught to be only purely objective, because you have seen that the author is also criticizing biased of technology, जहाँ पर privileged class के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं बनाई जा रही है, या जो टेक्नोलॉजी जो उसने एग्जाम्पल दिया मेडिकल फील्ड में वो फॉल्टी है बिकॉज ऑफ इट बीइंग बायस. Okay, so engineering students today are taught to focus on objective technical outcome independent of the social dimension. Yes, they are taught to be objective, right? So this is the claim that the author is making. D is the correct option. The author gives all of the following reasons for why marginalized people are systematically discriminated against, systematically, in technology related interventions, except the question is of except. So what to do? We have to figure out that all of the following means there are three options where we have the examples where marginalized people are systematically discriminated, and the author is giving the reason. So three are the reasons except for one, right? Once you compare that, and we hardly question whether devices are built sustainably, which has led to a crisis of medical waste and healthcare, accounting for 10% of this. Now this is not concerning the marginalized segment. It is not the reason. It is not connected with the marginalized segment part. That's how this is the except one. Have a look at the other options. These racially based adjustments, again, racially based means we are talking about racially discriminated segments, right? Beyond physical failing, subjective belief treated as fact with decision making role can encode social inequities, correct? This is also a reason. But those technical ideals are at their core social and political choices determined by a dominant culture focused on economic growth for the most privileged segment of society. That's why ignoring the marginalized. So B, C, D are the reasons, whereas A is not connected with it, hence the answer. Have a look at this question. All of the following are examples of the negative outcomes of focusing on technical ideals in the medical sphere, except. That means what examples are given in the passage. So we have to consider what is given to us, right? Have a look at the options. Incorrect assignment of people as female at birth, which has resulted in faulty drug interventions. This comes in the first paragraph. Have a look at the paragraph. Read this and then again have a look at the paragraph. I am moving back. Okay, non-technical, this is where this grounded in math and science, this is knowledge, solution process, not given here. Okay, yes, medical sphere की जहाँ बात हुई थी यहाँ पर, right? Yep, here it is. In my field of medical devices, ignoring social dimensions has real consequences, reactions. This is because they have been inadequately represented in clinical trials. Most FDA approved drugs are incorrectly dosed for people assigned female at birth. So dose are incorrect for people assigned female at birth. That means females. Simple. Leading to unexpected adverse reactions or adverse things, right? This is what the author is saying. What about the option? What is the option saying? incorrect assignment of people. No. It is incorrect dosage. It is incorrect dosage to people assigned as female. So A is ruled out, and when I am ruling it out, that's how it becomes the answer option. What about B, C, D? Exclusion of non-privileged group in clinical trial which lead to incorrect drug dosage. Correct, because कुछ cases में Asians और blacks को consider किया ही नहीं गया है. Neglect of research and development of medical technology for diagnosis and treatment of disease that typically afflict marginalized communities. ये भी mentioned है. Example, continuing calibration of medical devices based on past racial biases. Correct. Eugenetics, जो लोग बिलीव करते हैं उसमें और उनके द्वारा बनाए गए जो मेजरमेंट्स या बायसेस हैं उन पर डिपेंडेंट है मेडिकल डिवाइसेस कैलिब्रेशन. सो बी सी डी आर द एग्जाम्पल्स, वेयर एज ए इज नॉट द केस. 12. We can infer, the question is of inference, that the author would approve of a more evolved engineering pedagogy that includes all of the following except. So you can see there are 3 questions of except, right? Out of 4, 3 questions are of except, and these questions require very important consideration that we are looking at something which qualifies this. That means there are 3 options which would qualify whatever is being asked, right? So we can infer. So what inferences can be drawn? Let us see about option A. What does it say? Moving towards technical social dualism where social community needs are incorporated. So are we moving towards dualism? Is dualism something which the author is approving of? The answer is no. He is saying technical and social are 2 aspects which must be considered together. Dualism is separation. So this is what cannot be inferred. B, making considerations of environmental sustainability. Correct. It talks about greenhouse emission. Design that is based on the needs of community using local knowledge and responding to local priorities. Correct. Marginalized, local. A more responsible approach to technical design and problem solving than focus on speed in developing. Again, जो first paragraph में बात हुई थी, yes, उसको criticism कर रहा है. So A, B, C, D are something that the author is likely to approve of, not the A. So A becomes the answer, right? Chaliye, let's move to the next passage. Have a look at this. Okay, let's move to the next slide. All right, have a look at the next. This is the last one. Okay, चलिए we move to the first slide of this passage. Okay, humans today make music. Think beyond all the qualifications that might trail after this bar statement. What do you mean by this? Humans today make music. Now, this is a very straightforward, simple statement that humans make music. Okay. Today. Think beyond all the qualifications that might trail, might, after this bald statement. Bald means very plain statement, nothing fancy, nothing very explaining, nothing very qualifying to it, right? That only certain humans can make music, that extensive training is involved, that many societies distinguish musical specialists from non-musician, that in today's societies most listen to music rather than making, and so forth. That means all these are qualifications. It's not that everybody makes music. So think beyond that. What it is saying, don't get into this kind of details. Get to the generalized thing. This is what the author is trying to say. These qualifications, whatever their local merit, are moot in the face of the overarching truth that making music, considered from a cognitive and psychological vantage, is the province of all those who perceive and experience what is made. That means if a person can experience and perceive music, so That's the cognitive and psychological advantage of being human, not all these aspects. We are almost all of us musicians. Everyone who can entertain, not necessarily dance, to a beat, who can recognize a repeated tune, not necessarily sing it, who can distinguish one instrument or one singing voice from another. So we are all musicians. As if even listening is being musician. This is what the author is saying. I will often use an antique word recently revived to name this broader musical experience. Humans are musicking creatures. So this is very interesting term, and what it's saying, it's an antique word. That means outdated kind of. Now we don't use it, but according to author, humans are musicking creatures. It's not that they are creating, they are even perceiving. That is also makes them related to music, right? The set of capacities that enables musicking is a principal marker of modern humanity. There is nothing polemical in this assertion except a certain insistence which will figure often in what follows, that musicking be included in our thinking about fundamental human commonalities. So this is what it's saying, starting with the first sentence, humans, music, right? Capacities involved in musicking are many and take shape in complicated ways arising from innate dispositions. Most of these capacities overlap with non-musical ones, though a few may be distinct and dedicated to musical perception and production. So there are capacities, musical capacities, and they overlap with non-musical, though a few may be distinct and dedicated to musical perception. That means most of the capacities, whether musical or non-musical, they are same or similar. In the area of overlap, linguistic capacities seem to be particularly important, and humans are in principle language makers in addition to music makers, speaking creatures as well as musicking ones. So what it is saying, जैसे linguistic है, capacity है जो कि overlapping है, और according to author, all humans have an innate capacity of language, making language, understanding, speaking, all those kind of things. In the similar fashion, musicking is also. Humans are symbol makers too, a feature tightly bound up with language, not so tightly with music. The species Cassier dubbed Homo so and so cannot help but tangle musicking in webs of symbolic thought and expression, habitually making it a component of behavioral complexes that form such expression. So ये हमारे evolutionary part से उसको correlate कर रहा है. But in fundamental features, musicking is neither language like nor symbol like, and from these differences come many clues to its ancient emergence. So if it is not like language, or it is not like creating symbols, and from these differences come many clues of its ancient emergence. तो ये फिर कैसे emerge हुआ है? That means ये language और symbol like capacities के emerge होने के similar नहीं है, उससे अलग है. Let's have a look at what the last part of the paragraph says. Let me look at some comments. Okay. Thank you, Sonal. If musicking is a primary shared trait of modern humans, then to describe its emergence must be to detail the coalescing means combining together, of that modernity. Let's read this sentence again. If musicking is a primary shared trait of modern humans, then to describe its emergence must be to detail the coalescing of that modernity. Right. This took place, archaeologists are clear, over a very long duration, at least 50,000 years or so, more likely something closer to 200,000, depending in part on what that coalescence is taken to comprise. If we look back 20,000 years, a small portion of this long period, we reach the lives of humans whose musical capacities were probably little different from our own. Probably little different from our own, that means kind of no difference, not different. That means 20,000 पहले 20,000 years पहले भी जो ह्यूमंस की म्यूजिकल कैपेसिटी थी वो प्रॉबेबली उतनी ही थी जितनी की आज है, humans in general, right? As we look farther back, we reach horizons where this similarity can no longer hold, perhaps 40,000 years ago, perhaps 70,000, perhaps 100,000. But we never cross a line before which all the cognitive capacities recruited in modern musicking abruptly disappear. Unless we embrace the incredible notion that music sprang forth in full-blown glory, its emergence will have to be tracked in gradualist terms across a long period. That means this capacity gradually developed over a very long period. So it's not an abrupt kind of capacity which came to humans at one point of time. This is one general feature of a history of music emergence. So what is the general feature? That it didn't appear as a burst of something, it appeared in a very gradual term, gradualist term, right? The history was at once socio-cultural and biological. So history of music's emergence, how music emerged in humans. The capacities recruited in musicking are many, so describing its emergence involves following several or many separate strands. Involves following several or many separate strands. Okay. So this passage is clearly about one thing, musicking, and how or what is the history of its emergence in humans, its similarity with other capacities. As far as author is concerned, author is saying that music is kind of innate in humans. Everybody is musicking, right? Everybody is musicking. It's not only creating music, it is to perceive, it is to get a sense of rhythm, beats. That also is a part of musicking, right? And that's what according to author, I am repeating it, that's what according to author is innate, and it is trying to look at its emergence, historic emergence. Okay, have a look at the questions now. Which one of the following sets of terms best serves as keywords to the passage? Now these type of questions would require you to look at the passage carefully and look at the keywords which are discussed or which are used to discuss certain aspects of the passage. A, musicking is there, yes. Cognitive psychology, yes. Antique, just one antique word is used. So antique, not very prominently involved in this, it's not a key word. Humans, yes. Psychological vantage, yes. Musicking, yes. Crazier emergence of music, no. Emergence of music, yes. Right? So B is also not part of it, and psychological vantage or psychological advantage is not key word. These words are used or these phrases are used, but these are not key words. Humans, capacities, language, symbol, modernity, missing musicking. So musicking to chahiye. So C ruled out, B ruled out, A ruled out. D, humans, musicking, linguistic capacities, symbol making, and modern humanity. Modern humanity is checked, or this term or this keyword is used towards the middle and end of the passage, where it is connecting what modern humans with the past or the evolutionary aspect of it, bringing it to the modern music trends, right? So answer option is D. Based on the passage, which one of the following statements is a valid argument about the emergence of music or musicking? So it is talking about emergence. So which is a valid argument? Valid argument means the author, according to author, which makes sense, right? Chaliye. Question number 14, what does it say? Valid argument about the emergence. Anyone who can perceive and experience music must be considered capable of musicking. Really? I mean, is it the argument related to the emergence of music or musicking? Nope. Although musicking is not language-like, it shares the quality of being a form of expression. Nothing concerning the emergence, right? 20,000 years ago, human musical capacities were not very different from what they are today. That means 20,000 years पहले हम लोग उतना emerge हो चुके थे in terms of music जितने की आज हैं. So this makes sense. This is a valid argument. All musical work is located in the overlap between linguistic and musical production. Now, it is not all musical work, though these two fields are overlapping, but then emergence part is not the same. This is what the author's argument is. So as far as emergence is concerned, this is a valid argument as per the author or as per the passage, right? Chaliye, have a look at the next question. Think beyond all the qualifications that might trail after this barred statement. First paragraph, first line. Okay, in the context of the passage, what is the author trying to communicate in this quoted extract? Have a look at the content ki ye kahan aata hai. Humans today make music. Okay, think beyond all the qualifications, because it is saying humans, right? Generalizing. Or it is telling us in a specific sense that no other species, not kind of excluding them, but specific to humans. Think beyond all the qualifications that might trail after this barred statement. That means, barred means very plain statement that only certain humans. We have discussed this. So let's move to the option. We have seen the context. Now let's look at the options. In the context of the passage, what is the author trying to communicate in this quoted extract? A barred statement is one that is trailed by a series of qualifying clarifications and caveats. Is it always to be used that way? Not always. Although there may be many caveats and other considerations, the statement is essentially true. So it is saying barred statement means look at this in its entirety. Look at this as a plain truth. There are caveats, but this is in general true. So this is making sense. Although there may be many caveats and other considerations, the statement is essentially true. Alright? So this is what in the context means when it says barred statement. Thinking beyond qualification allows us to give free rein to musical expressions, nothing of that sort. A barred statement is one that requires no qualification. No. A barred statement is a plain statement that is essentially true. There may be different exceptions, caveats and considerations. So answer option is B. Which one of the following statements, if true, would weaken the author's claim that humans are musicking creatures? So we have to look at one which weakens the claim. Okay. Musical capacities are primarily socio-cultural, which explain the wide diversity of musical forms. Okay, have a look at the last paragraph where the diversity part is considered. Yes, last. This is one general feature of history of music's emergence. The history was one socio-cultural and biological. History of music's emergence. The capacities recruited in musicking are many. So in musicking, there are many capacities involved. So describing its emergence involves following several or many separate strands. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Musical capacities are primarily socio-cultural, which explain the wide diversity. If this is true, then the statement, then the argument becomes weak, because it is saying primarily, whereas musical capacities, the emergence was always, according to author, socio-cultural as well as biological, and that if that explains the diversity of musical forms, not many things are to be studied in terms of diversity. So this weakens the idea. What about B? Non-musical capacities are far greater consequences to, even if it is true, it doesn't weaken the author's claim that humans are musicking, right? As musicking is neither language-like or symbol-like, it is a much older form of expression. Now, does it kind of weaken the argument? The claim is that humans are musicking creatures. In general, everybody is. If the social cultural is primarily thing, then the divergence would be very, very different, and I won't say that every human is musicking, right? So A is weakening this idea, not B and C. What about D? From a cognitive and psychological vantage, musicking arises from unconscious dispositions, not conscious one. Again, even if it is unconscious dispositions, it doesn't weaken a generalized idea that humans are musicking creatures, right? If it is primarily socio-cultural, then not all the humans would be musicking. So question number 16 explains, in question number 16, answer is the option A. Now these passages are PYQs, CAT questions, and once we understand the way CAT asks you questions and the variety of passages or the kind of passages that it put in front of students to solve, it gives you very good idea, and it builds your capacity to think on those lines. With this, I am concluding today's session. Thank you. Take care.